thinking it might be in research core in the end of Pirate Labs, which is a bold prediction to be sure, but these things can come to pass.
Yep. I believe both of the runners are ready. We are just waiting for things to get set up, so we should be getting started soonish. As we all know, runners are really good at getting to the end of the seed quickly. However, getting to the beginning of the seed takes a bit longer.
And this being the second game, I'll go ahead and go over some tournament settings real quick. We're playing, as usual, playing 6
It looks like
artifact
the runners are getting started.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, you can continue, Pierre.
Yes, and there's going to be a few different tricks in logic, but they're all going to be beginner level, so they could be expected to do stuff like scan dashes, slope jumps, and standable terrain by the logic. So we could see some very interesting generation here.
Yeah. It is also worth noting that as Prime support for Randomania is very new, there are still some issues we have noticed that have not been fixed yet. The big one, as those who watched the last race might know about, is Warp to Start crashes. There is a chance that with the new addition of Warp to Start, we've noticed that it can be unstable at times, and so in the current situation, all runners are advised to save before the warping to start at all times, and there believe there is some compensation plans in place for if runners lose time for a warp to start crash.
And right there we saw a trick called Space Jump First that allows our runners to pick up that item directly next to the landing site before they have the items they would normally be expected to do so.
Yes.
Like I said, some scan dashes in general, are actually going to be in logic, so the generator might expect them to do tricks like the one they just did.
Space Jump First is actually in logic in this tournament, as it is classified as a beginner scan dash within Randomania, which is different from how past tournaments with Bash randomizers have done, as it was classified in the easy category, which was, I believe, deemed too high. So the fact that Space Jump First is now logical does actually change up routing quite a bit, as it means that Hive Totem will not always be our runner's first item. And there's also the fact that we also kind of glossed over, we saw an artifact in Landing Site, which, and that's another artifact right there!
That is the last thing you expect to see on Artifact Temple is an actual artifact. I gotta say, it's certainly a shakeup.
Yeah.
And fortunately for our runners, the first item in Alcove was the missiles, which they're very important in Prime for opening the
transport access north.
Oh.
Burn Dome.
Required incinerator drone.
Storage cavern.
That isn't too bad. Landing site, we knew that one already. Okay, next one. And that's Lava Lake. This might be a pretty fast seed.
Yeah, none of the artifacts are looking too bad. Also, one thing you did interesting you did see is a different strategy on not just checking artifact hints, but how to check artifact hints. As some people, there are many experienced runners who will check the hints not when you first scan but in the menu. As I know, at least in the old Bash Rando, where hints could be a lot longer due to the extremely gratuitous joke hint text they added in, which I am still a bit salty was removed, but that could make checking hints a bit longer, and it could be faster to just check them in the menu. I don't know if that's still the case today, now that hints are guaranteed to just be the minimal dry text without Chozo slacking off on their jobs.
I think honestly there is still a case to be made for it, because there's also the elements of artifact you've already picked up. Like once they pick up that artifact in Landing Site, they see the artifact and they check the hints in their menu, and it just says artifact already gotten. It's very you can pretty much instantly tell that I can skip this hint.
If anything, it's the opposite. As
really?
Well, in the artifact Temple room itself, any artifacts you've already gathered will be the glowing icons, but in the hints menu, you have to wait for basically to see if the artifact icons flash up, and it's one you've already gotten.
Oh no,
So
I'm not
I feel
talking about that. I'm talking about like when you physically open up the text, it'll just have a very specific message that is. Just when you see the text of it, it's very clear that you've already picked up that artifact.
Fair enough. Anyway, I suppose we also glossed over, runners picked up morph ball bombs at the bottom of, I believe that is Transport Tunnel B.
Yeah, certainly a very interesting location. They're going to be happy that they got it this early.
Yeah.
However, they don't have morph balls, so they won't quite be able to use it yet.
Yeah, unfortunately they won't. There's probably another item they would have preferred to get right now instead, but that's how it's gonna happen.
Yes, and our runners are taking the first elevator to Chozo Ruins. This location tends to be very important in the randomizer because it's a very item-dense area. You're going to see a lot of different checks clumped together here. Especially without any late artifacts, this is going to be absolutely key.
Especially in Randovania, which I think has definitely been noticed to be very heavy on Chozo seeds. That's something that I think has definitely been noticed.
Yeah, there's been some investigation to see exactly where it tends to place items in the generation.
Yeah.
Chozo seems right now to be a little bit too favored. There's still some more. The jury's out, but it's definitely
as always,
location.
Randomizer is Randomizer. It can do whatever it wants, technically.
Who knows? You could see a required frigate. You never know.
Except for Tower of Light. Except for Tower of Light, because if it would go against my prediction if it did that, and we wouldn't want Randovania to be rude like that, would it be?
But the runners did just find various suit in Ruined Gallery. That's going to be pretty big.
Yep.
Because as we saw, a few of our artifacts are in Magmor, so
yeah,
our runners will most likely want various suit to go get them.
And various suit, just heading through Magmor in the early game is very important. That is also Space Jump on Hive Mecha, one of the other very important items, but unless you're planning on heading through Frigate or doing a bar skip, neither of which I would imagine are preferable, I don't believe, you do need Varia to escape to Mines or Fendrana. So, getting Varia suit early will definitely have impacts on their logic, and I am curious, considering that they have bombs, if we will see any runners try and go for an early Magmor dip, as that can be something that's is profitable sometimes in logic, although then again that was relying a lot on how Bash Rando logic worked, and I do not know how Randovania works as well than that, so.
Both of our runners got Hive Totem Skip, which is, normally in that room with Space Jump, there would be a boss called the Hive Totem. But they've done some, another scan dash, which isn't actually in logic because you can get that item without it anyways.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference, but it saves a lot of time.
It's a whole boss fight they don't have to deal with, and both of our runners got it very, very skillfully. Nanocite needed a second try, but hey, it's a difficult trick.
Yeah. It's a lot like Spore Spawn and Super Metroid. Everyone just kind of feels bad for Hive Totem just because they're not really necessary at all in any category.
DLC boss.
I wonder, is there a Hive Totem % in Prime?
It wouldn't surprise me. I know there's a Thardus %, but I don't know if there's Hive Totem.
Of course there's Thardus %. Because I know Super Metroid runners felt bad about Spore Spawn and
is that another suit on
That
is this
does
Ruined
look
Shrine?
like another suit. Yes, this is Ruined Shrine.
Oh, that's
Gravity.
Oh no! I just said frigate. I'm worried that my words are becoming prophecy.
You jinxed it.
I am fearful. Not
fortunately
actually,
for you.
Frigate.
Fortunately for the runners, Frigate does have several requirements in addition to Gravity. However, on the other side of the runners, Gravity Suit is, I would say, by far the least useful of the three suits in the game, as Varia is needed for Magmor, and also needed to traverse to Fendrana and Mines in the vast majority of seeds, whereas in addition to the fact that Gravity can flat out be skipped in any seed if you know what you're doing. Actually, I suppose technically not any seed, but there's just vastly fewer tricks that it restricts.
Now, getting gravity suit can actually be a bit of a downside in some specific cases because
Yes, that
that
is
actually
actually
restricts
true.
your underwater slope jump potential. It's a
And for
bit
that,
like the lava dive in a Super Metroid because you don't just jump slower in water; you also fall slower. So with an underwater slope jump, you can actually get more height without gravity suit than with.
it's absolutely ridiculous.
But like you mentioned, they'll be expected to get a few more items before going and getting any of the items in
Yeah.
Frigate. One of the tricks that isn't on is invisible objects, so they will not be expected to go there until they get thermal visor, and they'll also need wave beam, among
Yep.
other items.
And also Ice Beam as well, which...
Of course, of course.
Gollop seems to be, have headed back to the ship to,
Nanocite's
actually...
also heading
Oh, it
back.
looks like they are trying to head into Magmore. That seems like the thing that most makes sense. They couldn't go through the Chozo entrance as they did not have Morph Ball, so I think they are banking on finding Morph Ball within Magmore Caverns.
With these items, it certainly looks like a possibility. I'm
Oh
not
yes,
going to
it is
rule it out.
very possible. I have
We
seen
know
that
it
happen
can't be on
before.
Lava Lake anyway, since that's an artifact, so it wasn't going to be that way.
Yep, very true, but Morph Ball and Triclops Pit happens more than you would expect.
Let's hope it doesn't happen today. For the
Oh
sake of
yeah,
the
I actually
runners.
forgot. They can't proceed further in Chozo because everywhere else is Morph Ball locked. So yes, it would have to be in Magmore.
They do have gravity suit. It could be on Frigate Crash Site, unless they checked that when I wasn't looking.
They can't get into Crash Site because they don't have Morph Ball.
Oh yeah, that's right. My
Morph
apologies. That was a
Morph
silly
Ball
mistake.
locks off a lot of things in this game.
You just don't think about it until you don't have it.
Yeah, I believe the only... Oh, a small pastime I've had at some points in the game
Oh,
is...
there's a ball. That could be their... well, it's not their boost ball, because that was already in a ruined nursery. There's a lot of ruined rooms in this game,
Yeah,
so I have
yeah,
trouble
that
keeping
looks like
track.
Morph Ball.
And there it is.
Yep, so...
Both of our runners should be seeing it pretty soon from the looks of it.
Yep. Although Gollop is in the middle of the flashing health territory, so...
Yeah, we
Looks like
haven't
they're...
seen any energy tanks yet, so it's going to be a bit interesting, to put it
Yep.
bluntly.
Gollop's gonna be looking for the E in the immediate future.
Did you get a glimpse at what was in the room before Fiery Shores?
The shore tunnel?
Yeah, that one.
That was just a missile.
Okay, good. I missed it for a second there.
Yes, Gamma Emerald Morph Ball was in Fiery Shores. And Gollop is busy giving us all a heart attack with 2 energy. Please get more health.
Okay, 22 is a little bit better. That's 11 times better to be
I
precise.
still don't like that, but yeah. But yeah, Magmore can be decently dangerous if you don't have any E-tanks, which the runners do not right now. Oh no.
Oh no, Nanocite! It took a death. That's really unfortunate. A lot of the stuff in Magmore deals some really silly damage amounts, so I definitely don't blame them. I don't think I could have played as well as they were, so yeah.
Yeah, I believe Nanocite just lost their Morph Ball, but oh no, did they lose everything?
I don't think they saved. I saw Gollop take a save at the ship, but
unfortunate.
Gollop
did find some E, which is very fortunate for them.
And they're going to be heading up to Fendrana from the looks of it, through the elevator. Fortunately, like
some
you said,
interesting routing, rushing straight for Fendrana.
Definitely curious to see what they find here.
Yeah. Fun fact, these ice walls in the Fendrana entrance are not weak to Plasma Beam, even though the identical ice walls in the Ice Ruins Temple access and the Temple access are weak to Plasma Beam. It can be shot
That's our third suit. We found them all. It was behind an ice wall in Shoreline.
Are you sure that wasn't to nothing? I don't know. It looked like nothing.
It might have been. It could have been.
Yeah.
It looked like a suit. I know they share a model. I only got a brief glimpse.
Prime 1 nothing's sure the suit model, and they're supposed to have a very glitchy texture, but it's a randomized texture, and as with all thing randomizer in this game, there are some times where it just, there have been times where people have confused it with a suit, and I know there is some discussion around changing it to a different model, but considering nothings were created a very long time ago, I think a lot of the people currently working on it don't even know how, or would have to look into. And that is the world's most subtle item. No idea what that is right here in Power Canyon.
Bombs. That is something that you always like to see. The main power bombs. A lot of the times, runners are forced to deal with power bomb expansions. They only get 1 per expansion. Picking up main power bombs gives them 4, so that's just a lot more convenient to work with, because power bomb drops in this game very unkind. There's very few places that can give you them consistently.
I am like the one person insane enough to actually kind of like how the Prime 1 power bomb drop system works, but the fact that I classified this with insane should tell you about the public opinion on Prime 1 power bomb drops.
Prime 2 changed the drop system for a reason, I'll put it like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the way the expansions in how many power bomb capacity you have actually means something in Prime more than Echoes. Because in Echoes, you spend like the entire game at 1 power bomb drop. Because if you don't have any, the drop rate is massive. But if you
is that grapple beam?
That is grapple beam. But
by the way, Gollop performed a little trick there called standing on enemies. The baby she-gots in that room, it is actually possible to jump on top of them. And jump from on top of them to get to them.
Granted, they don't like that, but
they tend to be a little bit mean about it. But that is something that could be expected by Logic to perform. That's one of the tricks that are in Logic right now.
And speaking of in Logic, Gollop does have an interesting routing question right now in will they head into the Chozo Ice Temple? Because due to the way Randomania Logic works, point of no return is not really a thing that's considered like it was in previous Prime 1 games. And that means that there is the possibility that Wave Beam could be vanilla. And, is Gollop going for it?
That might very well happen.
Yep, but the runners can now be expected to head into the temple and to check if there's Wave Beam there. But they won't be able to get out of it if they go in to grab an item that isn't Wave Beam. However, those
it's
power
possible to see what it is from the doorway, so let's not remove
However, very fortunately, those power bombs came in an extremely convenient location for the runners, as there is actually a trick for being able to escape the vanilla beam rooms with a power bomb. How it works is that you lay a power bomb on the outside of the door, and then basically quickly rush in so you have the room you were previously in unload, and then once you're done in your room, you've grabbed your item, you head back to the door, and it reloads, and it keeps your power bomb active, which opens the door from the other side.
That's really clever. I would have never thought to try something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
In the meantime, we see our other runner, Nanocite, starting to catch up. They've already picked up their various suit and their space jump boots, so they're already starting to make way back to where they were.
Yes.
And Gollop could very easily fall behind. We mentioned Gollop tends to have more experience with Echoes. This is still really anybody's race.
To be honest, going into Phendrana I would not is definitely a risky check, as there were really only 2 checks Gollop was able to gain access here. Granted, one of them was main power bombs, and that could very easily be worth it. Looks like he's going for it.
Is that what I think
Wow, Gollop very much made the right decision here.
Yeah, it looks like it. Wave Beam is one of the items that Gollop will need to complete the game, and it was in an inopportune location, to say the least. So this could very, very much put things in their favor.
Yes. I will say, on the topic of point of no returns, there is actually work being done to re-implement point of no returns within Randomania that will be coming out in 3.1.0. It currently does have some issues. Infamously, it disables Flagra and Research Core for reasons that we're still not we're still not completely sure why. But at minimum, it is mostly functional in its current state, and will be released in 3.0.
There's just a little bit more they need to iron out before we're ready to release it.
I imagine Dark Zero will probably want to figure out why it's disabling Flagra, because logically, you wouldn't really think that would be the case.
Yeah, Flagra requires actually quite little to fight, and it's certainly very possible to leave. But it's not possible to leave the exact same way you came in for a number of reasons. I'm assuming that's probably why it's doing that.
Although, speaking of Flagra, it's also worth noting that in the current vanilla tournament settings, Flagra has an 80% chance of having progression on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that number from?
Thanks to some amazing work by Dark Zero, there was a tool implemented into Randomania that allowed the users to generate basically X amount of seeds and export the logs into a JSON format, which could be converted into an Excel sheet. And so there is basically I believe there's a pinned spreadsheet in current Randomania General detailing the current drop rates of Prime 1 Randomania with the current weekly settings. And one of the things that we found in that is that Flagra has an 80% chance of progression right now, which is extremely interesting to me. I don't particularly know why. I can theorize ways due to how it impacts with the way Randomania as algorithm moves throughout the world, because it is very different than how the Bash's old Rando worked out. But ultimately, I am not. Okay, well, I have worked with the code base in the past, but I am not the developer behind it, so I can't really say for sure.
Yeah, Dark Zero has honestly pulled a lot of weight in the development. It's really amazing to see what they've contributed to the project over the years. It's
although one thing I would like to point out that Dark Zero has done is that he has made it very easy for anyone else to contribute to the project if they desire. Randomania is open source and anyone is allowed to make contributions. If you have ideas for tricks you want added or modifications to the database logic you would like to suggest, anyone is free to come in and modify it. The database can be very easily modified without even knowledge of coding if you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. The tools to modify the database are built into the randomizer itself. There's no dealing with data files. And even if you don't want to push it,
if you just want to disable a trick for your own personal use or add one in, you are absolutely free to do that in your local games, and it is very easy to do if you know what you're doing.
Randomania actually has customizable trick difficulties in just the base version, so you can set individually for each trick type your desired trick level, how difficult you want those tricks to be, and that's a level of flexibility you can't really get with a lot of randomizer programs.
Yep.
In addition, I do recommend, if you're not already there, heading to the Randomania Discord, if this sounds like the kind of thing that would interest you.
Yep. For the Prime Randomizer Discord, which, for some reason, we ended up calling... For some reason, the main Prime Randomizer program at this point is called Randomania.
There is no Castlevania support. Do not get your hopes up. Yet.
And that is Spider Ball in Triclops Pit.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, I wasn't completely wrong in my prediction that there was gonna be a ball in Triclops Pit. Wasn't the right ball, but unfortunately, Gollop is understanding why it's called Triclops Pit and why Triclops are jerks.
Yeah, getting blocked in there for a second, that's never nice. And we saw Nanocite actually explicitly go back to pick up the gravity suit there. Certainly an interesting choice. I do respect it, but let's hope that pays off for them. There's still 2 more beams they have to find, and the Phazon suit, assuming it wasn't in Shorelines, I didn't get the greatest look.
Yeah, personally, I would argue that Gollop made a very risky play heading straight for Vendrana. However, I cannot argue that it has most definitely paid off for him.
Yeah, I would agree, but if it turns out Vendrana has other important items and they'll want to come back to it later, it's possible that we could see Nanocite pick up some time by doing all of Vendrana at once. That's always a possibility. You can never discount that sort of thing. Because really, backtracking and going to places you've already been can be a place where you lose a lot of time. if you're not careful.
As with all things Metroid, backtracking is the killer.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Not really much coming on right now. Mostly just runners heading out to back to check they are. Although I imagine Gollop is going to be collecting the artifact right here.
Yeah, there's the artifact in the lava lake that we discussed earlier.
Yep. 4 artifacts, 24, 38 minutes into the run. Not bad. Looking to be the usual
yes, the
Randomania
other
special.
locations aren't looking too dire. But again, those are not by far the only items.
Yeah. We do know Zoid is required, so I imagine
yes,
Gollop
yes,
will
yes.
not be avoiding late middle Chozo for too long, but...
Yeah, the real key is going to be finding the beams. And I noticed that Nanocite is in vaults. I think they found something important.
Oh, that's...
Oh, would you look at that? That is something that they will need. Phazon Suit is one of the required items to complete the game. You cannot damage the final boss without it. So that is something that not only can it be just about anywhere, but they will always need it.
It can be anywhere except for Phazon Mining Tunnel and Tower of Light, because one little thing I failed to mention during our bet is that Tower of Light is currently bugged as a location and cannot have any progression right now.
Darn, I had no clue. Well, I mean, it wasn't there, so we were all wrong.
Yes, I was indeed wrong, and I knew I was wrong. So that means I was right and I was wrong at the same time.
I have clearly lost in this game of 5-dimensional chess. I do not have the superior.
I have won, but I have clearly also lost at the same time. So therefore I have won, and therefore I have lost, and therefore I should stop making stupid arguments and actually commentate on the race.
Yes, 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 let's get back to the race. We see Nanocite here also picking up the artifact in Lava Lake.
Yep.
So that's 2 artifacts for them if the tracker is counting them, which our lovely tracker, Op82, thankfully volunteered to track for this race immediately after finishing their own race.
Yep.
That's definitely very nice of him to do.
Yep.
And it's definitely a very appreciated service.
It is very interesting to see how Nanocite grabbed Morph Ball back in Fiery Shores, but then decided to leave Magmore to head back and explore more of early Chozo, which, I mean, I can't say it was particularly the wrong decision considering they knew that Phazon. I'm guessing they knew where Phazon Suit was, and
No, I think what they knew was Boost Ball, because that was in Ruined Nursery, I want to say. That might be why they went back with more Vault. I don't know if they were in Vault before. But either way, it was definitely a very informed play, given what they know about the state of the game. And 3rd artifact, and for Nanocite.
Yes.
We see Gollop performing a trick with standable terrain, standing on that teeny tiny branch you would never guess could support an entire Samus worth of weight. And they're also going to be heading over to Tower of Light, the location that did not have our Phazon Suit. Yep. Thankfully, they can just go straight from one to the other because they have Wave Beam.
Yep. Op's trip into Phendrana, it really did end up paying off.
Yeah, that ended up being
wait,
very...
No, not Gollop, sorry.
I
was mixing up Gollop with our wonderful tracker. Apologies.
Silly, silly, silly.
Yes.
It's only our 2nd race. There are room for little mistakes.
Yeah, one of the wonderful things about Prime 1, if it looks like you can stand on it, you could probably stand on it. Even if you can't, check anyway, there's a 50% chance.
Yeah, a lot of the Prime game's actual level geometry is pretty much 1-to-1 with what you actually see in the level. things like wires and railings, branches, vines. Yeah, that's all physically modeled, and they never coded it so that you like slip off or anything.
Yes. I do believe they fixed up a lot of that stuff in Trilogy, but, well, let's just say there's a reason we're not playing Trilogy.
Yes, leaving in the jank makes things much more interesting. And Nanocite choosing not to head to Vendrana, from the looks of it, heading right back out of that room into Magmore watch station.
I believe
Definitely
it's,
interesting choice.
I don't believe it's Watch Station. This
I
is
might
the
be getting
Monitor
confused.
Station. Monitor Station, that's
That's
what it is.
it. That's
Don't worry, it's the one room I always forget how to do it as well.
And Gollop has gone back for their boost ball. We'll see if they stumble upon Phazon's suit in a minute here.
Wouldn't be surprised if the he did. It did.
In all likelihood, Gollop's probably going to want to do more of Chozo right now and not less, but
yeah,
there's always the
considering they know
possibility
Zoid has an
take a risk.
artifact and it's their last artifact, I would very much not be surprised if they decided to explore it while they were on the search for beams.
It's definitely interesting that Nanocite has decided to not go to Fendrana right now. I can't imagine that working out too well, but who knows? There might be some advantage that they glean from it.
Yeah, having our perfect knowledge of the sea as the routers are, well, perfect so far, we can say it's a mistake, but honestly, given the knowledge I would have if I were in Nanocite's position, I can't honestly say I would disagree with them, as Fendrana is only 2 checks. We know it's 2 major items, but what are the odds of that, realistically? Especially when one of them can only be Wave Beam.
I probably would do it myself, but that's just because I like Fendrana. I'm way too emotional about which checks I choose. Frankly, if you're looking at it on the face of things, Nanocite's decision makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm pretty sure the entire Prime community loves Fendrana. The piano music, it hits everyone somewhere.
A lot of Metroid Prime has some pretty beautiful music. Thankfully, you'll be able to hear from our runners some of the original music from the game.
Yep. Yeah. Early Fendrana I find to be an interesting location in Randomizer because of how much of its early locations is locked behind Plasma Beam. Oh, finding
and there's Phazon suit to Gollop.
But, yeah. It makes the decision of whether or not to go Fendrana in the early game an interesting one, to say the least.
Yes, you end up being able to preview a lot of items, but not necessarily pick them up. It can create some interesting conundrums.
Yes.
We haven't really been getting a very detailed view of Chozo Ruins, so it's definitely going to be interesting now seeing our runners delve a little deeper there, whether there's any interesting items to be found.
Yep.
Because we still have unaccounted for both visors, all 3 beam combos, the super missiles as well. We do not know where Ice Beam, Plasma Beam are. So there's still a lot on the table. And there's nothing in a Ruined Fountain.
Yeah. I am curious if either of our runners will end up going for Flagra, considering I know at least some people have been trying to get the word out that Flagra is hoarding all the items in Randovania, but
there's still a 20% chance that they'll spend the several minutes for that check and not get anything out of it. Even if it's just a 1 in 5, I would still be a little reticent to dedicate that much time. So there's definitely a real choice.
Of course, we all know Randovania uses the troll engine for its logic, so now that we've figured out its secrets, it might be trying to hide its ice beams elsewhere.
And we're going to be seeing Watery Hall. Our runners will actually be able to pick up all of the items in this area. They have gravity suits, so they can most likely do the dive into the bog water. And they'll also be able to get both items in Central Dynamo. Because Charge Beam was a starting item, there will actually not be any Charge Beams forced on the pedestal like we've seen in some previous tournaments. In our case, it was a missile expansion, nothing too interesting.
Yep. JDV Silvergun, we do not know if supers will end up being required in this seed. There is the possibility that they will end up being required, but nothing that we know about will require them. We know that... Oh! There is our Ice Beam!
And that was in Watery Hall. They actually skipped the fog water. Ordinarily, you would defeat Flagra and that water would no longer damage you. It would become crystal clear. But the item doesn't wait to appear there until after you've beaten Flagra. If you get from one end to the other, you can still pick it up.
Yep. Now, while the tracker is empty, the only item that I think our runners still need to actually finish the game is actually Plasma Beam right now. That and, well, their last artifact, but...
Of course. But it can be in all sorts of places. There's a lot of the game they haven't visited yet, so... This could be a very jet seed, or it could take them a very long time. That's still up in the air. It might even be in Burn Dome. There are 2 items in that room.
Yeah, true. It could be.
Who knows?
It could be the other Burn Dome item. Or the other Burn Dome item could be Flamethrower, and we could be convinced this is a Plando, because it's legally required that whenever you make a Plando that you put Flamethrower in Burn Dome.
Which item here do you think will be the artifact? Do you think it will be on a Zoid, or do you think it will be behind the Morph Wall?
I'd say Zoid, just to troll them more.
Well, they're stuck in here until they beat the fight anyways. The door is locked when they came in, so...
Yeah.
It's an equal troll either way.
Yeah, it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
Real quick. Oh, that was X-ray visor.
Well, that's convenient.
Yes, the visors in this game are actually not required for anything except beating Omega Pirate in the case of X-ray, but they're very good to have.
Yes,
during the final boss fight, Essence, having the visors takes a lot of the guesswork out of the fight.
Yes. I have done visorless Essence multiple times in the past, but oh boy, it is not fun. If you lose track of Essence at all, it's just a big long waiting game until it finally cycles through back to vanilla, and that's if you don't get pool skipped, which, because Essence, there is a good chance it's going to happen.
Yes, so sometimes you will see runners go out of their way to check items even after they're technically in go mode, because they just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
there's a real decision our runners have to make about whether they want to keep searching for visors. Unfortunately for Gollop, that decision got made for them, at least in part.
Yes. There are also other items that can help out with final bosses that aren't strictly required. Supers and Ice Spreader can both be very helpful when dealing with Exo, as they can basically knock out an entire cycle of Exo right there. And if you can land the snipe, you can get a second one as well. But they do require missiles, and they need to be found, so it's not always every seed that you find. You see runners grabbing them.
Yes, Ice Spreader in particular can be very, very useful. It really takes a lot of the sort of jank of aiming the beams out of the ice portion of Exo's fight. It's very, very easy to land.
Aster, I would just like to say you have my sympathies for doing a visorless Essence when getting pool skipped twice.
No spoilers. Don't spoil the folks at home on how the race went.
That's what they posted
spoiler, but you know.
That's what they posted in chat. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have Twitch chat open right this second.
Yeah.
Anyways, X-Ray does also open up some things in logic, because although you aren't necessarily required to grab it for some parts, invisible objects are not going to be in the tournament logic, so they will be expected to pick up visors to see things like invisible platforms. So that does actually potentially open some things up for our runners.
Yeah. It can also theoretically give them an idea of where logic expects them to go at the moment. Although given the fact that Plasma can be almost anywhere outside of Lower Mines or early Fendrana, it doesn't really make much of a difference at this point. Nope, valid.
There's Flamethrower. Our run is valid.
Yep.
It wasn't on Incinerator Drone, so it's not quite as valid as it could have been. But that's a pretty good place for Flamethrower to be, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a bit more of Late Mines. The item up there, I didn't get a good look at it. Do you see what that was?
Looked like a missile, I think. If anything, I'm just
Okay,
guessing a
so
missile, given that the runners didn't go
yeah.
for it. But yeah, flamethrower and furnace, so hot right now.
Yeah, it looks like I think I would agree. That did look a bit like a missile in upper furnace.
Yeah. The little secret to commentating is that even if you don't see it due to the commentary stream resolution, you can just guess if it's a missile based on whether or not the runners go for it.
Missiles are pretty much the one item that you will never see anybody deliberately try and go for.
I mean,
some people will skip a wave buster, or if you're really feeling like having an invalid run, they'll skip flamethrower as well. But there's a pretty dedicated.
we call those people heretics.
There's definitely a wave buster and flamethrower fans out there who will pick it up whenever they see it.
Yeah. Flamethrower does it. Fun fact, flamethrower does actually have a use case, and we might actually see it in this run, because for whatever reason, due to spaghetti code, the power phase of Essence is actually able to be damaged by flamethrower, and it is faster to use flamethrower than just using regular charge shots. So technically, if you have no beam combos other than flamethrower, it does have a use case. It is a very niche use case, but it is a use case nonetheless. And we are currently on track for flamethrower useful %.
There's actually a lot of little interesting vulnerabilities. If our runners were to find Wave Buster and go to Flogger, there's actually a little bit of a error in the code that means that Flogger, who normally is what we would call a cutscene boss, who can only be damaged by hitting certain buttons at the base of their, I don't know, the pot? What would you call it? Like where they're planted? Regardless, so Wave Buster can actually... Yeah, that's the right word, I think. But with Wave Buster, they're actually, you can damage them directly. Not a lot of people know this. Another big one, which you're much more likely to see, since Nanocite is already going to fight Flogger without Wave Buster, is a boost ball on Ridley that instantly just eliminates all of Ridley's health for one of his phases.
Yep.
Since both of our runners have boost balls, you're almost certainly going to see them do that to skip one of the phases, go straight to the last phase.
Yep.
Flogger from Nanocite is definitely a very interesting play. We already know it can't be a wave beam and it can't be grapple beam, but there's still a lot of things it could be. If it's plasma beam, this is probably a very good thing that they've chosen to do.
If it's plasma beam, this would be a very interesting seed, because it seems like Gollop has decided to skip Flogger for now. So if we do see plasma beam on the burning plant, that would give a very interesting dynamic between the two runners as both of them miss one beam that the other has.
This is something that makes randomizer races a lot more interesting. A lot of the time, you can't necessarily tell who's in the lead.
Yep.
Because there's information that the runners and even we as viewers just do not know about the seed. Stuff which dynamically ends up being revealed to us.
Yeah.
And it would appear Nanocite's having a pretty good cutscene boss.
Yeah.
The fire plant is going down.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Gollop is trying to do a little bit of a standable nonsense to get up to the room where you would ordinarily be finding Ice Beam in vanilla.
Nonsense? I'll have you know, Prime 1's movement system makes perfect I can't even finish.
Actually, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Prime movement. Yep. You have to have read a lot of the works of people. I don't remember how the full YouTube comment goes. I'm not a Rick and Morty fan. I wouldn't know it. But just that sentiment in general. There's actually, I'm not joking, there's a lot of nuance to Prime's movement. Our runners make it look flawless, like it's like you can just sit down and figure this out.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I love
such
Prime
a difficult
movement. It is pretty much the only reason I don't run Echoes is because I can't scan dash in it, and I'm clinically addicted to scan dashing.
I certainly understand the sentiment. Dashes in this game are exhilarating.
Yes.
Because the glitch that makes dashes work in this game, essentially you have an uncapped speed if you're moving from side to side. If you're moving forward and backward, they're very careful to make sure you can't go too fast. But they never set a speed limit for going for strafing. which is what allows
Funny Samus go
to
zoom.
work.
Oh, and while it's
That's
not
the other
positive,
visor. That's thermal.
that is thermal visor on Nanocite, which
That means
will.
that Frigate is in logic.
Oh boy.
That is. Oh wait, no, they don't have ice beam. At least it's not.
Or no,
Going
they
to
have
that
relevant,
way.
but they have ice, but not wave. But that does.
Oh wait, no wait.
That will
Sorry,
be
I got
guaranteed
lazy.
to mean that I'm pretty sure Nanocite is going to end up having an extra visor for final bosses, while Gollop will not, considering they seem to have skipped Flagra, and yeah.
It's definitely possible that Essence could give them a bad enough time that Nanocite ends up coming out a few seconds ahead for that play.
Yeah. Granted, there is the question of how much time did they save and or lose by going to plant, and is that worth it on Essence?
Also, we saw Gollop finally make that jump. It's a very difficult trick, and it ended up not really working out too well for them. Just a missile expansion over there. Now it was being searched for, certainly.
Yes.
And not even really something that they're all that interested in finding.
And as pointed out by chat, Nanocite did make a somewhat interesting decision, where they just did Flagra, but they did not decide to do Ghost right there, as
that is true.
Yes. While the trigger for the activating a Flagros and changing the layer in Sun Chamber does require you to descend the Tower
they
of
have
Light
Spider
a bit.
Ball, so there
Yes,
would not
they
be
can
a
use
trick.
Spider Ball. You can use Spider Ball to climb down to where the trigger would be, then ascend back up Tower of Light, and basically get into the Chozo Ghost without without
Gollop
having
is heading
super
to
missiles.
Late Talon. They're coming up to the bars. It would appear.
Are we gonna see a bar skip?
Well, we might. We might.
Everyone's favorite trick, and I'm sure that absolutely everyone loves bar skip ever.
They're checking. Going to be checking Root Tunnel real quick first.
Ooh, I think I got through that one
Or
on one go. I think my
Tunnel,
sarcasm's improving.
Sorry, Root Tunnel is in Chozo Ruins. I get those
yes,
stuff.
bar skip. Everyone's favorite skip trick, right next to everyone's favorite room.
And a missile expansion in Life Grove Tunnel. Unfortunate.
Another missile in Life Grove itself, and for the artifact spinner.
Alright. One more item here. Curious to see what it is. This might be premature, but I think it might be a missile expansion.
I don't know. You've only got a 50% chance of being right.
I won't say I called it, but I called it.
You did call it.
Anyways, Nanocite finally heading into Phendrana, as they're going to quickly realize that is absolutely something that is going to benefit them.
Yeah. Although, the fact that they have Ice Beam, while Gollop did not when they were first exploring Phendrana, that could have potential impacts on the routing, as they may decide to proceed further into labs, and
especially with Thermal Visor, that also puts Thardus in.
Although I don't believe they have super... yeah, logically Thardus is still in play, but logically they would also have to head back through labs.
Yes, of course.
Although a somewhat interesting thing to keep in mind about Phendrana in the current state of Phendrana in current state of Randomania that I was going to mention to you earlier but forgot is that it is currently has a bugged location in it. The Phendrana shoreline. Oh,
there's our plasma beam. Coming back here later turned out to be the play, because now Gollop is going to be scratching their head wondering where it is. And it might take them a very long time to come back here. So it turned out that putting off Phendrana might actually, it might even put them into the lead. I would say they're comfortably ahead right now.
If they know that how the point of no return logic works and that Wave Beam can be vanilla, yeah, I would.
Oh, they're going there now. They're going, and now that they have Plasma, they can check the other item. Who knows?
Yeah,
it might be.
Although
there
is the chance they don't know about the point of no return change, and they're just checking the ice item. Hopefully, they're not.
That would be very unfortunate. I don't think we're gonna see that, but I'm a little spooked.
Yeah, Mayor Rabbit, Plasma was in the Ice Ruins Spider Ball track.
Yeah, that's why Gollop didn't see it earlier, because at the time they didn't have Spider Ball, if my memory
Although I do
serves.
believe you can peek it with Space Jump.
Yes, yes, it's Gollop is going to be a little bit upset, possibly, that they didn't do that. But
Yeah.
there's so much you have to keep track of in this game. Frankly,
Yes. Considering I
a
couldn't
mistake like
grab
that, if you
and
can even call it one, is definitely something that happens to all of us who play this game.
fortunately Nanocite did seem to open the door to Chapel Yellow, so it does seem like they know that about the whole point of no return situation and that it can be there.
Yes, yes, and there's super
Oh,
missiles
and
underneath. I
that
called
is
Wave Buster. That isn't quite the same, but it's definitely something that we want
that is
the
a
runner to see.
very convenient super missile. And that is
Yes,
also something that will likely give Nanocite another edge. To be honest, I doubt Gollop is ever going to head back to Ice Temple, considering all they're looking for is Ice Beam, and well, all they're
Plasma
looking for is
Beam.
Plasma, and Plasma can't be locked behind Plasma. Or at least I hope it can't be.
Well, there's always the possibility, but Randomania is pretty tried and tested, so I would imagine that's probably not going to happen.
And
And
yes,
Nanocite getting their wave beam in a minute here. Just has to fight.
although
She got,
according to the tracker, Nanocite only has 4 of the 6 artifacts right now,
that could
so
absolutely give Gollum some room to catch back up.
yes, I do not really know what artifacts they are missing right now, but considering that they know where artifacts are, that is, I would, to be quite blunt,
Yes.
say that's, I would definitely put Nanocite in the lead right now over Gollop, considering Gollop does not know where Plasma Beam is.
Yes, but that could still buy enough time for Gollum to catch up if they started getting lucky. Or if, for example, Nanocite took another death. Which can happen, especially on the final boss, and that can cost quite a few minutes. Our runners almost always take a save before the final boss, but
Yeah, especially when the
sometimes we
ship
see
restores
nobody
all your
do.
ammo, but, yeah. Who knows?
And Nanocite finishing the fight, grabbing their wave beam. They'll likely be quickly rounding up the remaining artifacts.
Yes, if they have any.
That one side effect is that means that a Nanocite will not be getting the main power bombs in all
Which
likelihood.
is actually very interesting, as that does have ramifications on the final boss, as Nanocite will not be able to quickly dispose of Metroids during the Essence fight.
Or even during the lead up to the Essence fight. That shouldn't
Yep.
come into play since they have all the items to get up there normally, but if you're trying to like slope jump up to Essence, which some runners will do on rare occasions, the
Yeah, I
Metroid
wouldn't say
there
it's
can give you some
too rare,
real challenges.
but yes, Jack and Jill certainly will defend their hill. And it looks like Gollop has seen the posts about Flagra in Randovania after all, and is heading into the plant right now, which, well, it does technically have progression. I imagine it is not the progression he is looking for.
Yeah, setting himself up for a bit of a disappointment. Certainly not as bad as seeing a missile expansion there, but I can't imagine that they'll be too happy when they see it. Also, notably, we'll get to see in a minute here whether Gollop does, like Nanocite did, the various scan dashes to defeat Flagra a bit quicker.
Practically don't
Yeah,
need scan dashes, but they do make things a bit quicker.
yes, absolutely. There's absolutely no requirement to do it this way, but it just makes things a lot faster because you don't have to worry
Or, well,
about the
technically you
mirrors.
can just use space jump to get over to
Yeah,
the
that is
bridges.
true. I guess I'm used to thinking about Flagra in a more early game context. They're trying to do the space jump, but they missed it. They're not quite getting the right spot, but there
There
it
we
goes.
go. Yep.
Those aren't actually normal bomb slots. They're just ordinary sort of damage zones, for lack of a better word. So you don't have to put your bomb anywhere near them. You don't have to morph into them. If it just gets vaguely in the vicinity, the game will count that as damage. Power bombs also work. So sometimes on rare case, you'll see somebody pick up main power bombs and then use those to go fight Flogger without even normal bombs.
Yeah, technically that's not exactly possible. There are a few edge cases where that's possible, but
It shouldn't
not
come up here. It shouldn't.
the vast majority of runners will never be able to fight Flogro exclusive with. The only way that's possible is if you're playing in random one-way elevators or with random starting items, and basically you get a warp to Flogra, or you are absolutely insane and out of bounds your way into Flogra without bombs, which...
Let's hope nobody does that this race.
Please no.
Or this tournament, rather. That is asking for trouble. Out of bounds is legal for this tournament, unlike
Out
some
of bounds
previous
is
ones.
already trouble. Out of bounds without bombs is just like signing your death certificate.
Yeah, it's certainly a big risk.
That's
an understatement.
That's an understatement.
Nanocite heading to ship. They're likely on the path to getting their other artifacts. Meanwhile, Gollop just picked up their thermal visor. I can't imagine they're feeling super pleased right now. There's the artifact at landing site, and they've just got one more to go.
Yeah, doesn't look like Nanocite's taking a ship save, which...
I think the last artifact is at artifact site. I don't see why they would pick it up again.
You know what? Yes, that would actually make a lot of sense.
I wasn't paying super attention because I've got mine split between the two runners, but most likely that's going to be the last artifact.
Yeah, that
especially since that's where they're heading now. They might be skipping the ship save, but there are save stations in the impact crater itself, which they could take.
Yes.
The only obstacle before you get to the save station is Ridley here, who we're about to see. The evil space.
Spoilers!
And Ridley isn't a super big death risk, especially with 4E tanks.
Yeah. 4E tanks is on the lower end for Prime, but...
A lot of our more experienced runners think this is almost overkill. I've often seen the game completed with 2 or 3, if that. And now we're going to see one of the few mandatory bosses of the game, Meta Ridley.
Yep.
Also, you'll notice Gollop. We mentioned this earlier, but Nanocite chose not to fight Chozo Ghosts by Flogra, which turned out to be a really smart play for them. But Gollop is not quite willing to take that risk, and it's going to cost him a bit. Yeah. You know it's not going to be anything useful here, because the only items that are left are Wave Buster and... Well, I guess Ice Spreader could be convenient.
Yeah, Ice Spreader is technically useful, but...
missile expansion. Not what they wanted to see.
Yeah.
So that's going to end up probably putting them a little bit farther behind, especially since Nanocite is already in the final sequence. This is what makes randomizers so interesting. Is really you can never be sure of anything. So you get these amazing comebacks like we saw this game, and we might even see another one again. Nanocite chose not to take the ship save. If they choose not to save in Crater either, and they take a death, that could definitely be trouble.
That would be absolutely devastating.
Yes, I would hate to see that.
Yeah, this seed is on the short side, so it wouldn't be too crazy to see one to recover if Nanocite did have to start over from scratch, but I don't know, that would be...
Gollop heading into Magmor. Hoping for their sake that they choose to turn into Phendrana, but it's possible that they might not. Since they have both beams required to delve further into Magmor itself, they could very well end up doing a workstation and the likes.
Yeah, considering late Phendrana has a lot fewer plasma required checks, they might be thinking it would be statistically better to head into late Phendrana first, but I am not Gollop. I do not know what Gollop's thinking in terms of routing right now, so...
We'll have a chance to ask Gollop all about it later. Nanocite, like I said, is getting pretty close to finishing the game, barring a catastrophe on their end. We'll probably get to ask them how they're feeling in, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes? It's hard to say exactly. Essence tends to be a bit weird with how long it takes. Both visors, so it shouldn't be too erratic, but we'll get our chance to ask all the questions later.
But yeah, this is definitely seeming like a very fast seed so far. No, barely anything in, nothing in labs or late Fendrana, nothing in mines. It was nothing really even in late Chozo. It was almost entirely in the early game.
I'm not surprised at all with that, given the way that the artifact hints were pointing. Usually that can be pretty indicative. Obviously, if something's in late mines or something, you might be expected to grab Spider Ball or Grappling Hook. Not to mention the visors, of course, and not to mention the beams.
Yeah. Grappling hook.
So,
Oh, that's an
that's an
interesting
item
cut.
that we saw, but neither of our runners picked it up, unsurprisingly. Grappling hook's
Yeah,
really not something that comes up.
It's famously friended with the spider beam.
True. But Nanocite's actually trying to climb up Impact Crater, like we talked about earlier, and the Metroids are giving them quite a bit of trouble. This is not
Unfortunately, Jack and
necessary
Jill
with their items, but they've chosen to do it because it looks faster.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Jack and Jill love to defend their hill, and the Metroids in this room, unfortunately, will respawn infinitely if you don't leave, which is...
Quality game design is what I would call it.
I have always been... They introduce these super enemies and then they encourage you to not fight them? Oh, that always felt like a very stupid decision to me.
I wouldn't say stupid necessarily, but Metroid Prime had a very constrained development. I don't like to assign,
we very much know that Impact
I don't like
Crater...
to assign these things to developers, personally.
Yeah, no, but... Impact Crater, we know, had a lot cut out of it. We know that there was an escape sequence that was originally planned that did end up getting cut. You can actually, if you go around in Prime World Editor, you can actually see what remains of the escape tunnel in Metroid Prime Lair, but...
And Nanocite coming up to our favorite crab. This is going to be the start with the titular metal Metroid Prime. Not the metal Metroid Prime, pardon the slip of the tongue.
I mean, I don't know, that seems like a design that would fit right in on a metal album cover.
That's actually going to be a new Smash character.
I mean, Metroid Prime isn't Smash.
Metroid Prime Metal Cap, make it happen. Come on, Nintendo. Give the fans what they want.
Technically, it is already in there. You just have to think a little creatively.
But yeah, one thing about Essence that, or sorry, not Essence, EXO, that makes them a bit interesting is that they can switch between their different phases, the different vulnerabilities. These first 3 rooms will be very predictable, but once we get to the 4th chamber, all bets are off. And that's the first chamber done for Nanocite. 3 more to go. Meanwhile, Gollop has everything they need. They're fighting Ridley as we speak, so, like I said, it might look at sometimes like somebody is very, very ahead, but things can change in the blink of an eye.
This could end up being a very close race. I would absolutely not call this as done by any means.
Yeah, especially because Nanocite is already down an energy tank, and Gollop has 2 more than Nanocite does.
Yeah, thanks to the wonderful gifts of Jack and Jill, there is a very real chance of Nanocite. I don't know how Nanocite's skills against primes are. They seem to be playing the fight very safe, which I can definitely say is probably the right move. But of course, playing it safe does make things move slower.
If they were concerned that they were falling behind, they might play a bit more risky. Because neither of our runners can see what the other is doing. Of course, it would be a little silly if they could. So, sometimes we get people who are in the lead, but don't think that they are, and take all these crazy risks and end up paying the price for it when they would have won just by playing it safe.
I have very much seen that happen to me in the past. It's when you're...
Never a fun experience.
When you're in the runner's chair, it's very easy to think, okay, the last risk I made didn't pay off, therefore I need to make an even bigger risk just on the off chance that it has something to make up for that lost time. It's very easy to get yourself thinking in a cycle, and because of that, then you end up doing Thardas, Flagra, and Frigate, when you could have just won by just heading in through doing the standard Chozo Fendrana Mines loop.
I would be a terrible racer because I do all of those things just for fun. Anyways, Nanocite's already on the 3rd chamber, so they're pretty far in. Yep. Like I said, on the 4th and final chamber, which comes after this, they'll stop being able to predict a lot of Exo's behavior when it comes to phase changes.
Yeah, that's when Exo just kind of does whatever it wants.
And a lot of that is, of course, going to have some interesting effects.
Although the fact that Nanocite does
only
have
has supers for beam combos, so if Exo tends to avoid a power beam phase, that could be unfortunate.
Although Gollop does not have any beam combos aside from Flamethrower, so that is an advantage Nanocite does have on them. Yeah, the Thermal Visor ended up not quite transferring because Gollop now has it as well. Yeah.
Speaking of, they just finished Meta Ridley, so they'll be heading to Impact Crater shortly.
Space Dragon dead. For real this time, we're sure. He's not coming back ever again.
Are you sure?
Definitely, positively, 100% without reasonable doubt.
Metroid Dread's coming up, definitely not going to be in that game, I can tell you that.
Nanocite flamethrowering the Prime. Anyone wants a roasted crab?
Seafood, let's go. Some people told me that they would see kind of like a face behind Exo's shell. I kind of don't know how much I believe that.
I can see it.
Obviously, I like to see the glowing eyes, but I don't know about like a human face. Like, 4th chamber is starting now. Like I said, this is the part where things get a little chaotic. It's possible to lose a fair bit of time here if Exo starts to.
In Chaos Phase, Exo can just kind of do whatever it wants. It doesn't really have any limits. It can charge whenever it wants. It can change the beams whenever it wants. And if it wants to, Exo can be very rude.
Starting with a charge phase, that's usually not ideal. That's
or just like just continually changing beams over and over so you can't get a single charge shot off.
Yes, that can be particularly cool.
Exhibit A.
And now see, it's already on Plasma and right back to Wave.
Yeah, unfortunately, since Exo seems to be spending a lot of time in Wave Beam for Nanocite, which is unfortunate, as I think it's pretty much universally agreed Wave Beam is the worst beam for Chaos Phase.
Absolutely, it's very slow to deal damage.
Yeah.
Also notice that Nanocite is down to 258 health, which is not, it's not like I'm super worried about this territory, but it's fear and doubt territory. We could definitely see something happen.
Fortunately, Essence doesn't tend to be a very damaging fight, although the fact that Nanocite does not have any power bombs to get rid of Metroids could cause some problems.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Also, I just realized Nanocite only has 30 missiles, which is explained by they've been constantly running out of super missiles throughout the fight.
Gollop starting Exo fight. Okay, so they're both on the same boss right now. That's pretty close, surprisingly.
Yep. I would not have predicted this outcome when I came into this seed.
Yeah, there was a lot of definitely unforeseen returns.
Yeah. Yeah. For those wondering why Ice Beam isn't the worst, Ice Beam actually does increase damage to Metroid Prime, as, shockingly, Metroid Prime is a Metroid, and it has weakness to cold damage, so...
Thankfully, canon compliant. We are not mad. They did actually think to do that. Not to mention the Ice Spreader is a very good charge combo compared to Wave Buster, which is not.
Yeah. And that is Exo done for Nanocite. But yeah, Ice Beam, all ice damage does 1.5 times damage to Exo, which is something you would not predict if you play the original game, but it does make Ice Beam easily, honestly, in my opinion, I'd say the best beam for fighting Exo, as well, the charge shots do slightly less damage than charged plasma. Ice Spreader is a much better beam combo than Flamethrower.
Absolutely.
Especially when it does 1.5 times damage. It can one-shot an entire phase if you land it. At least on normal mode.
Fortunately for us, Nanocite has decided to let the cutscene play out, so we get to hear Essence music since they're...
Fortunately for us, that's actually not an issue anymore. You can skip right away.
Oh, did they change that? I didn't realize they fixed that.
One of the many wonderful things Toaster Party has given us, I believe.
Yeah, they've been really working hard on a lot of the patch.
Oh no. Nanocite, don't do that there. You'll get pool skipped.
Oh no. I'm holding my breath.
Oh. You know, I'm very happy to be wrong, because I really hate pool skips.
Yeah, they're always pretty inconvenient. They're having a pretty good Essence so far.
Yep.
You'll notice that they're actually not firing continuously like you ordinarily would. By running into and out of the pool over and over again.
Oh no.
You can actually start to
they
increase
got
the amount.
pool skipped.
Ah, that's really unfortunate.
Yeah. One very obnoxious decision that was made with Essence is that if Essence is by the corpse of the exoskeleton when the phase change will happen, it will just... Really. Yeah, it will just not just drop a phase on pool, and... well, I'm sure it's not...
It's a little annoying. So what they were doing there with the phase done is by walking in and out of it over and over again instead of just firing continuously, you can make the phase on pool give you a little bit more than it should.
In addition, by pacing your shots in a very specific rhythm, you can basically cancel Essence's pool of animations. Essence has like a limited amount of moves it can use in between dropping a pool, and by basically canceling them all halfway through, you can basically progress through the pool at a faster rate and basically skip to when it drops the next pool. And oh no, Nanosite just got pool skipped again.
Ah, that is some rotten luck. One thing I'm happy about is that Metroid Prime has such a, even for runners, such an interesting final boss. There are a lot of games where the final boss is kind of a bit of a pushover. Metroid Prime does not play around.
Yeah, I'd say so for Exo, but Essence is just... I mean, it's
Essence
technically
is just a bit funny. I wouldn't call it difficult. It's just...
like,
it often feels a little arbitrary sometimes. I'll give you that.
I'll say it's better than it is in casual playthroughs where it's just 5 minutes of waiting around and then holding A, but I do not find Essence to be an interesting boss. It's honestly my least favorite part of the game.
Fair enough. Exo is at least, though. I'm quite a fan of Exo.
Oh, absolutely. It's easily the best boss in the game, in my opinion.
And they would have, it looks like they would have had a kill there on Metroid Prime, but the other Metroid interrupted them.
And that is time for Nanocite at 1:12:18.
We have our winner. Alright, congratulations to Nanocite for their victory. We'll be seeing Gollop complete their game very shortly as well. And Nanocite will very soon be with us in the live channel to share some thoughts. And we'll be treated to the final cutscene and a little roll of credits. Hello, Nanocite. That was quite a run.
That was, especially that beginning right there.
Yeah. Honestly, it was such an interesting run.
Were you thinking you would come back and grab this win after doing that? What was going in your head right around there?
Yeah, it was definitely some unforeseen stuff, even for us.
Yeah, this seed was crazy back and forth.
Yeah, quite a bit of backtracking.
Absolutely. Yeah. You actually, that's kind of where you ended up coming ahead of Gollop. You were both in the hunt for Plasma Beam, and it was... because the plasma beam was in a location Gollop had already been to, they ended up not quite backtracking enough. So that's sort of where you pulled it at. Also, in some really good performance, just in general.
Yep.
There was a lot of skill on display from your run. A big congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Are there any things that you have to comment on about this seed?
Yeah, this one was really weird. It was just weird.
I mean, I definitely agree. You hardly had to look at the drama, and I don't think anybody ever even went to mines. So.
Yep.
Yeah, no mines.
Honestly, I don't mind it very much. But it's still a bit funny to see mines not show up at all for progression. The only items that could have been there are Wave Buster and Ice Spreader, actually.
Probably.
You ended up going into
main power bombs were?
You almost got them. I'll give you that. You were very close to getting them.
Yeah.
They were in Canyon. Vendrona Canyon.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gollop actually ended up getting them, but it didn't really.
Gollop rushed Vendrona very early on. So Gollop had access to main power bombs and wave beam for most of the seed. But while they were there, they didn't check Ice Runes where Plasma Beam was. And so you're taking a more complete trip through Vendrona, I think, was really what did end up giving you the lead in the end.
Yeah, some people have a tendency to call seeds as soon as a death happens. Like, okay, that's over. And this is basically my counterpoint to people who do that. I would say anything can happen. You've had some amazing comebacks in previous tournaments, and we've already got one right now on game number 2.
Even then, even with that though, this was not a close race. This was a very close race. Gollop is, I believe, on Essence right now.
Yeah, they are. So they'll be joining us pretty shortly, in like 3 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Now, another decision that ended up paying off for you, Nanocite, is that you skipped Chozo Ghosts after fighting Flagra. Gollop fought Flagra and did Ghosts, which ended up being a missile expansion.
Oh, I only skipped it because I didn't have super missiles.
You could have just fallen down the spider track and grabbed back on.
Yes, the trigger is only partway down. If you go back down to where the first drop is and then just climb back up, you can activate
I know about the Sparta Ball. I know about the Sparta Ball usage. I didn't have super missiles to fight the ghost. I wasn't going to do that.
You know what? That is
totally valid. The ghosts are
logical.
Terrible to fight without supers.
Yep.
Gollop at least had X-ray, so they weren't losing too much time there, but it's still a pretty significant chunk.
Interesting that the trend of, or well, technically, progression on Flagra continuing. I don't believe Thermal was ever required for anything in the seed, but it is interesting to see Flagra be so heavily weighted in recent versions of Randovania.
Definitely something that our contestants in future games will have to consider when they choose their routing.
And that is Gollop finished at a time of 1:17:35.
Yeah, both of our runners did very well. There you see, they're very... Even after all of that, their times are actually surprisingly close.
Yeah, for how different their routing is, this seed ended up being insanely close.
Hopefully we can get Gollop in here in a minute, and we can ask him about some of his decisions.
Unfortunately, I don't believe Gollop has a working microphone, so...
they
will likely just show up in Twitch chat. It's been that way as far as I know them. They are just the silent pillar holding this community up.
Silent being the operative word at this time.
Yep.
But they have actually contributed quite a lot. I might have mentioned this earlier, but if you've ever played the Metroid Prime 3 randomizer for Randomania, they pretty much personally enabled that to work by a lot of their patcher work. If they hadn't sat down and figured everything out, we wouldn't have that today.
Oh wow, I didn't know they were the one that did that.
Yes, actually, yeah. They put a lot of work into that. It's really impressive how much they got done. Anyways, this was definitely a very good race. I'm glad to have been here to comment on it. It's always
Yep, this one was certainly a good one to commentate. I'm very glad I decided to sign up for this late night one.
Yeah, this one had a little bit short notice, so it was definitely quite fortunate that we could find good staff to comment and track. Speaking of, again, thanks to our tracker Op82, who was one of the runners from the first race, so it's definitely very nice of them to volunteer to do that immediately after completing their own race. As I understand, theirs ended up running quite a bit longer than this one, so it's greatly appreciated to have these contributions from members of the community.
Yeah. Not particularly sure if Gollop's gonna drop in a chat at any point, but yeah.
I'm not expecting it too much. Have you been keeping an eye on Twitch chat?
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on Twitch chat, but haven't seen anything from them yet. Should probably check out the race time, actually.
Yeah, be sure to do that real quick.
Actually, Nanocite, have you seen anything in the race time about, from Gollop?
No, I haven't.
I see.
Oh, very well. The invitation to drop in Twitch chat is there if you want to show up, Gollop.
Yeah, certainly welcome to come in here. By the way, Nancy, again, congratulations on your win today. That's a very big achievement, I know, especially being just the second game. It's always nice to get that little confidence boost, almost, I would call it.
Yeah. Just a little bit. I got kind of destroyed in the previous tournament that I was in.
Well, that was a long time ago. I'm sure you've had some time to practice, and it's pretty clear that that practice is paying off.
Yep.
It
You're off to a
is.
strong start so far.
Yeah, strong start, especially in a Swiss-style tournament. At least for these earlier phases. That's really going to be a great boon going forward, I can imagine.
But,
Funny enough, in one of my previous races, I actually died during an Exo fight.
Really?
And still pulled off that win.
We were actually talking a lot about that because exo fights are actually surprisingly common, or exo deaths, I should say, are surprisingly common in the game. So you actually had two fewer energy tanks than Gollop did. So we weren't exactly pessimistic, but we were speculating over the possibility of Gollop even making a return. If by some happenstance you ended up taking a death on Exo.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. You pulled out with plenty of energy to spare, so especially since you had taken some damage on Jack and Jill coming in.
I took a lot of damage, just overall.
Yeah. Gollop didn't have to worry so much about that because they picked up the power bombs and they didn't have to deal with their nonsense quite so much. But definitely, that advantage obviously didn't help them win so much, but it's always a bit curious to see which items end up shifting the balance the most. Like in this match, obviously, something like super missiles ended up not being terribly important, but in some occasions, you will see that be what decides a race, or at least plays a large part in deciding a race. So you can never really be too sure.
Yeah.
And it would appear we're probably not going to be getting joined by Gollop. It's been a minute or two, and we haven't really seen anything from them.
Yep.
So I think we're probably just hearing from you tonight, Nanocite. Have you got any other remarks to make?
On my way to Hive Totem, I was thinking this is gonna be Space Jump. It was in the forefront of my mind. This is gonna be Space Jump, and and then trying to figure out where Morph Ball would be was annoying a bit.
Yeah, you and Gollop ended up coming about on that at more or less the same time. You ended up being a little bit ahead because you just had a cleaner movement going through Chozo. You ended up going out of Hive Totem at the same time Gollop was coming in.
Oh.
Which is definitely something interesting because Gollop actually ended up getting the totem skip first try. You got it second. So even despite that, you still ended up being slightly ahead just on tiny optimization. But there were definitely some kind of rude locations in this seed for certain. Mandatory incinerator drone, mandatory Zoid. That's always a bit controversial to say the least. And wave beam on vanilla, definitely not nice, especially after Robo Scout mentioned that since we're switching randomizer generators for this tournament, that might trip some people up because some people are not used to just checking these points of no return. They're used to being able to safely skip Mama Shiga, and that's going to be a little bit contentious moving forward.
I believe we've been trying to get the word out about the differences between Randovania and Old Bash's Rando, but if you are someone who does not know, or you know someone who does not know, please put the word out that in its current state, Randovania does not have point of no returns as a thing. Every item that you can theoretically get, even if you would have to reset out, is in logic.
Yes, absolutely. Anyways, I think this is about the time to wrap it up. I don't think there's that much left to say, except for dropping some links.
Unfortunately, it looks like the current bot for the links to the Discord server and the Rose and commentators isn't quite working right now.
I don't have any links myself, but I think our. Do you mind just manually pulling up the Twitch channels of our runners? And I know the Randovania Discord link is in the page on GitHub. Do you mind bringing that up?
Oh wait, never mind. It looks like the schedule in the Discord server link is just, but the runner and commentator follow links aren't working. Y'all don't need to follow me. I only basically stream my tournament races and nothing else.
I don't stream at all, so I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. So, but I don't know, Nanocite, Gollop, if you're listening to this, you can pop your Twitch links in the chat below.
Well, I mean, Nanocite's still in our call. I would assume they are, if they haven't gotten up for water.
Yeah. Really trying to get everyone to ignore us and follow us anyway. Darn you, Reed!
Hey, I have streamed exactly once. I streamed Desert Bus for 7 hours. I lost, and that was several years ago. If that sounds like your kind of thing, I'm not going to stop you.
Anyway, I think this seems like a good note to end things on. This has been very nice. It has been a blast commentating with you all, and we will see you all soon. I am Robo Scout.
I'm Pierrolette, and I think we're going to call it here. Fantastic race. Thanks for showing out to watch. I'll be taking my leave now.
See y'all next time, which will probably be tomorrow.
See you next mission.